Hi everyone, welcome to Clone Compounding, where our mission is to learn from others in order to achieve financial independence. Today, we'll be looking at two stories from Berkshire Hathaway's 2021 Annual Letter by Warren Buffett. First story, a wonderful man and a wonderful business. One of the most heartwarming part of Berkshire's 2021 letter is the story Warren shares about Paul Andrews, the CEO of TTI, an electronics component distributor. Paul died last year, but Warren makes sure to let the world know what kind of person Paul was, and indirectly, it also reflects on the kind of person Warren himself is. Paul was the founder and CEO of TTI, a Fort Worth-based subsidiary of Berkshire. Throughout his life, in both his business and his personal pursuits, Paul quietly displayed all the qualities that Charlie and Warren admired. In 1971, Paul was working as a purchasing agent for General Dynamics when the roof fell in. After losing a huge defense contract, the company fired thousands of employees, including Paul. With his first child due soon, Paul decided to bet on himself, using $500 of his savings to found Textronics, later renamed TTI. The company set itself up to distribute small electronic components, and first-year sales totaled $112,000. Today, TTI markets more than 1 million different items with annual volume of $7.7 billion. But back to 2006, Paul, at 63, then found himself happy with his family, his job, and his associates. But he had one nagging worry, heightened because he had recently witnessed a friend's early death and the disastrous results that followed for that man's family and business. What, Paul asked himself in 2006, would happen to the many people depending on him if he should unexpectedly die? For a year, Paul wrestled with his options. First, sell to a competitor. From a strictly economic viewpoint, that course made the most sense. After all, competitors could envision lucrative synergies, savings that would be achieved as the acquirer slashed duplicated functions at TTI. But such a purchaser would most certainly also retain its CFO, its legal counsel, its HR unit. Their TTI counterparts would therefore be sent packing, and if a new distribution center were to be needed, the acquirer's home city would certainly be favored over Fort Worth. Whatever the financial benefits, Paul quickly concluded that selling to a competitor was not for him. Second, he next considered seeking a financial buyer, a species once labeled a leveraged buyout firm. Paul knew, however, that such a purchaser would be focused on an exit strategy, and who could know what that would be? Brooding over it all, Paul found himself having no interest in handing his 35-year-old creation over to a reseller. When Paul met Warren, he explained why he had eliminated these two alternatives as buyers. He then summed up his dilemma by saying, in far more tactful phrasing than this, after a year of pondering the alternatives, I want to sell to Berkshire because you are the only guy left. So I made an offer and Paul said yes. One meeting, one lunch, one deal. To say that Warren and Paul both lived happily ever after is an understatement. When Berkshire purchased TTI, the company employed about 2,000 employees. Now the number is around 8,000. A large percentage of that growth took place in Fort Worth. Earnings have increased more than 600%. Annually, Warren would call Paul and tell him his salary should be substantially increased. Annually, Paul would tell him, "We can talk about that next year, Warren. I'm too busy now." When Warren attended Paul's memorial service, he heard about the multitudes of people and organizations that Paul had silently supported. The breadth of his generosity was extraordinary, geared always to improving the lives of others, particularly those in Fort Worth. In all ways, Paul was a class act. Let's move to the second story. the importance of luck. Good luck, occasionally extraordinary luck, has played its part at Berkshire. If Paul and Warren had not enjoyed a mutual friend, John Roche, TTI would not have found its home with Berkshire. But that ample serving of luck was only the beginning. TTI was soon to lead Berkshire to its most important acquisition. Every fall, Berkshire directors gather for a presentation by a few of its executives. The board sometimes chose the site based upon the location of a recent acquisition. By that means allowing directors to meet the new subsidiary CEO and learn more about their activities. In the fall of 2009, Berkshire consequently selected Fort Worth so that board could visit TTI. At that time, BNSF, the railroad company, which also had Fort Worth as its hometown, was the third largest holding for Berkshire amongst its securities. Despite that large stake, Warren had never visited the railroad's headquarters. So, Warren's assistant scheduled board's opening dinner for October 22, 2009. Meanwhile, Warren arranged to arrive earlier that day to meet with Matt Rose, the CEO of BNSF, whose accomplishment he had long admired. When he made the date, I had no idea that our get-together would coincide with BNSF's third quarter earnings report, said Warren, which was released late on 22nd. The market reacted badly to the railroad's results. The Great Recession, this was in 2009, was in full force in the third quarter, and BNSF's earnings reflected that slump. The economic outlook was also bleak, and Wall Street wasn't feeling friendly to railroads or much else. On the following day, Warren again got together with Matt and suggested that Berkshire would offer the railroad a better long-term home than it could expect as a public company. He also told him the maximum price that Berkshire would pay. Matt relayed the offer to his directors and advisors. 11 busy days later, Berkshire and BNSF announced a firm deal. Warren made a rare prediction that BNSF will be a key asset for Berkshire and for the United States a century from now. The BNSF acquisition would never have happened if Paul Andrews hadn't sized up Berkshire as the right home for TTI. Alright everyone, thanks. That's it from us. Thanks so much for watching and hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button and please subscribe for more such videos.